Hello, Dr. Carrie Hepburn from Compass PD here. About 9, 10 years ago, as I started my journey leading curriculum work in a large school district, a friend shared some research with me that truly impacted me as a leader. This research actually helped me as a leader in managing complex and systems change within our organization, which was a large school district. So we had lots and lots of buildings and teachers. And so I just really felt like this could be super helpful for some of you and wanted to take just a minute to create a video and talk through it with you. Okay, so what you're seeing here is leading and managing complex change. And this is work that we do with districts when we're doing things like helping them build, we'll do things like help them build curriculum cycles or help them create professional learning cycles. I truly believe if you have a really solid curriculum development cycle, how the processes and steps for that, which we work with schools and we work with universities on this, and then a professional development cycle that kind of goes in tandem alongside that, you will be able to manage complex change more efficiently, more in a way that people find it predictable. They know what to expect. So give me a call if you need any help with that. So what I love about this leading and managing complex change is it's really some simple pillars that we need to keep in mind as we lead our stakeholders through this work. And so there are 6 pillars that we need to consider. This research is originally from Dr. Anthony Ambrose and Dr. Mary Lippitt from 1987. And then Tim Noster adapted the research in 1991, and lots of organizations continue to use this research because it still holds true. So the first pillar that we need is, do we have a strong vision? We need all 6 of these pillars in order for us to be able to have change, really strong change that is manageable, that leads to action, that is systemic. So do we have a strong vision? And in that vision, the work that I do when I'm working with districts and with leaders and with teachers is talk about, like, why is this change needed? And so we do that through the curriculum cycle. We think about, what's the data telling us, not just quantitative data, but also qualitative data as well. And then we create a shared vision in that time of our curriculum cycle. What I notice when I go into districts is that when there's not a vision or a shared vision, I'll hear people say things like, why should I do this? What were they thinking when they adopted this? Like, we didn't get to give any input. We weren't part of this process at all. So there's a lot of, and when you notice down here, if you don't have a vision, you're going to have lots of confusion within your organization. The next pillar you need to consider is consensus. So gathering a variety of stakeholders. I find this is really helpful in the beginning part of your curriculum cycle. So we're creating the vision, we're doing research on what best practices say about teaching, about learning, about our content area. And then we create a consensus of what we believe our curriculum should make sure, like, it has within, like, what's going to be in our curriculum, what are the methods, what are instructional strategies we want to see, what are best practices regarding assessment, those kinds of things, and that we believe in the shared vision that we've created. When we have lack of consensus, you'll see that the action that we'll see is sabotage. So if you don't have a vision and you don't have a consensus, you'll have confusion, sabotaging, confusion. So people aren't on board in the mission. The next one are skills. And so when I think about skills, when we do new learning, so a lot of people are doing new learning on the latest brain research, the neuroscience that's come out, or they're thinking about moving from lecture into more workshop model-y type teaching in math or in science or in social studies. And or standards have changed. So, do we have the skills that are needed in order to do the work that's being asked of us? So, that's where it's really nice to have a professional development cycle in tandem with your curriculum cycle. So, your professional development cycle might be your next step after you've done this work. The next year, when you start to write, maybe you're doing best practices PD. A lot of times I'll see that people don't do best practices PD. They go straight to adopting a resource without these things. And there is like confusion, there's sabotage, there's anxiety. So when our staff doesn't have the skills that are needed or the expertise needed of the new standards, of the new method of instruction, or we have lots of turnover, which we do, right? Every few years, teachers retire, we get new teachers. We need to, when they don't have the skills, we'll see that there's high levels of anxiety. So I'll see a predictable problem that I'll see is like there's a hodgepodge or no like focused tier one instruction across a building or across a district. There's just like all of these different things happening with no clear plan. Now, I have walked in before and there's kind of confusion, sabotage, and anxiety. And so it's really good just to start from the beginning and go to creating a vision and then do it step by step. Next thing, incentives. So you need to have incentives. And when I think about incentives, it's like, how is this going to benefit me? Because they need to see the application and the benefits for themselves and for their students. So some of the things that we talk about is I'll see a lot teachers gathering lots and lots of things. And when we get really solid in our skills, you see that you don't need all that stuff. You don't need all those copies. You don't need those packets. You can really simplify things, which in the end really does give teachers more time, less work. They can have kids like apply it in the moment in real life kinds of things. And so we know that there is nothing worse than feeling like our time is being wasted. And so incentives, if there aren't incentives, then you'll start to see resistance. Like we're just asking them to do more work and we're not taking anything off of their plate. So we have to show the incentives. Then resources. So here's what I will tell you. Step one for me of a curriculum cycle would be creating a vision, looking at research, looking at data, qualitative, quantitative from this year, past years, developing like a current reality, and then coming up with like studying the research of best practices, okay? And then thinking about where we are and coming to consensus of what our plan is going to be. Then the next year, as I start to write curriculum with a curriculum writing team, that's happening in curriculum, right? Then I would have my PD cycle would step in, and that would be step one of my PD cycle where they're getting best practices PD. The incentives are going to be on the instructional methods that are going to move kids along a continuum. They'll be on the instructional methods that, or the things that are going to make the teacher's life more, their work more impactful and easier. So I would be doing curriculum writing when this is happening in the PD cycle. I would then implement the curriculum, okay? I wouldn't purchase resources yet. So I would hold off for just 1 year so that you can get a good gauge on what teachers need in order to implement the curriculum. Or purchase a couple of things that are going to be helpful, but I wouldn't buy a whole program yet. so that you can get really comfortable implementing the skills and implementing your vision in the classrooms, okay? So resources, um, a lot of times we ask, when you hear teachers say they want us to do more with less, that can be a couple of things. It can be lack of skills. So when I hear people asking for more, a lot of times that gives me like a ding 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 in my head that, hey, I think we could work on like lifting the level of content knowledge, and that could be really helpful. Or finding like a continuum, or finding a like some rubrics or resources like that that can help us determine, like, it can help us understand what mastery looks like, or different levels progressing toward mastery. So we want to, when there's not enough resources, that leads to frustration. So we have to just explain the plan on being able to get resources before we go purchase resources at a huge amount of money. We want to make sure that we're being responsible and wise with the money and getting teachers exactly what they need in order to do the big work that we're asking them to do. So lack of resources is frustration. And then finally, like that action plan, when you're working with your teachers, you need a clear and developed action plan of what does the curriculum cycle look like? When do resources come? What does implementation look like? What does professional development and best practices and whatever new resource or product that you're purchasing? So keep in mind that we need multiple methods of instruction. So if we are not spending time developing skills, increasing content knowledge, spending time on different instructional methods, and solely relying on a resource, then we are really missing the mark when it comes to impacting students and student achievement. Because what will happen is not one resource is going to hit all of our kids and give them what they need. Our teachers need flexibility in order to meet students with different entry points that are aligned with best practices. So I know that was kind of a lot, but I just wanted to kind of talk you through that and talk you through, like, this is work that we do to help districts have a really strong vision and plan for themselves and for their teachers, so that we can really make um, change that impacts students and your staff really in a way that feels good and is effective. So hope you found it helpful. Have a great day.